Hi everybody, my name is Hiram and I wanted to make this video to explain what it is I'm doing and why. I'm not really one for the spotlight or putting myself out there, and I'm more on the computarded side of the coin, so please bear with my unedited awkwardness. My reasons? To see if there are others out there who have independently arrived at the same similar phenomena and to start a discussion with them. I maybe just don't want to feel alone. I don't know. It's something that's incredibly impacted my life, and I really do. I'm gonna stare at that, not the screen. And I really do enjoy it, and I found it's incredible. It has incredible benefits, and I want to either share it with other people, learn how to teach it. That's something I'm struggling with, or to learn from others. Number two is to let others know that this exists, that the possibility of it exists, and the possibilities it presents as far as health and health building, both emotional and physical, and the impacts it's had on my life. And the third reason is just to get it off my chest. I've been doing this for about 2 years now, and just always keeping it to myself. Like I said, I'm not used to putting myself out there, so it's always been kind of a hidden practice. It's my yoga, and I'll go into that later as far as the evolution that occurred that brought me here into what I call my spontaneous movement practice. The first two videos are actually a single video that I split in half, part one and part two, and they're close to a year old. But I'm going to start making or filming more of my daily routines, because I do this every day, and I have for about 2 years now, and posting them on YouTube. And I'm going to start exploring, starting from different postures from the standing or in the laying on my back, or sitting. Those are the two that I've just started naturally. As well as I'm going to start integrating objects, and just in an attempt to explore new aspects of this practice, as well as my body, how it responds to different physical scenarios, and its relationship to gravity, which seems to have a definite impact as far as applying pressure on muscles and joints and loading them, and then working my way through issues, closing joints, and allowing muscles to accomplish what they've been trying to accomplish, most likely possibly for some of these things since I was born. Trying to fix birth trauma and other things that have occurred or arisen as I've practiced. I'm going to give an off-the-cuff description of the objective and subjective experiences that I've had. And I apologize if I ramble. Going to the history, I have a history of just kind of been a health nut. Studied martial arts. Put my paper down that I was reading. Nothing in the extreme. I've done yoga since a very young age. Probably around 10 is when I started to mimic things that I saw around me. Around the 8th grade, I started to really read the books and get into that. But I also noticed that my body didn't react and take the same shapes that a lot of the postures demanded. And a lot of the corrections that instructors would make when I went to yoga studios would sometimes injure me. In fact, oftentimes injure me. Or they would cause soreness and other issues that didn't seem to correlate to the expected results. And as I read more and studied the yogic principles and the pillars and the various aspects of yoga, tantra, and other physical modalities, beliefs, exercise regimes, I started to create my own yoga that integrated calisthenics and martial arts, and it began to look nothing like traditional yoga. And while still abiding completely within yogic principles and theory and philosophy, I began to change my diet and everything. But again, those postures that people generally do, while beneficial to some degree, at some point the mold that they present became restrictive, and I could no longer fit within that mold. It began to break my body rather than benefit it, which I believe is something that most yogis eventually hit. The practice molds them. But at one point, much like the torus or other sacred geometry, you have to then mold your practice so that it becomes a representation of your embodied self. Otherwise, it becomes something of a chain or restriction as you try and become somebody else. I generally do not agree with, following gurus, except maybe in the case of serial guruing, where you follow someone until you feel you've got the benefits, and then you go to another studio or another guru or another practice, and just all that time exploring yourself and using those tools to manifest who you really are. And I don't think anyone's yogic practice, when over time, if done correctly, should resemble anyone else's yoga. I think that restricting yourself to that degree, trying to keep the perfect forms, actually kind of stop you from any quote-unquote mastery and keep you in the state of an acolyte, which is good in the beginning, and we should all return to that state anytime we go and attempt something new, the beginner's mind. But eventually you have to become your own being and form your own yoga. The risk there is doing so prematurely, and my own experience was that I could not do anything else but break from the mold. That said, I only within the last few years I tried smoking marijuana, and one night, while just relaxing, I decided to dance. I put on some earbuds and cannabis, but it was indica, and my brain was feeling lazy, so I just kind of checked out while letting my body move where it would, and pretty soon I found myself in a state that was timeless. I felt like I was being marionetted, like something else was controlling my body. My body was acting on its own accord, and I was just in a backseat. My brain was not engaging. I was a passive observer to the phenomena of my body, and that was a profound experience. It was very freeing. I began to see where I was stopping myself as far as appropriate postures, appropriate movements, paths of movement, and holding tension, and being able to take that overmind to my own physical process allowed me to then address it, not by actively engaging with it, but by allowing my body to do as it wanted. And it began to fix those things. It began to fix old injuries. It would, through various movements, which sometimes were new, and things I'd never experienced before, and sometimes they were recapitulations of things I'd just seen, or things I had practiced to some degree or another. And like it was using my life of movement as a tool for repair. Sometimes they're fast, sometimes they're slow, sometimes they're explosive, sometimes they're just gentle in the flow, sometimes it's twitching, shaking, undulation. And while in the past this might sound similar to various things like practice of undulation or continuum movement, it was something that I never experienced in those classes, and something I never witnessed while studying those practices. Although I highly recommend them. They're most likely a gateway to learning how to let go, learning how to not be so controlling, reducing that aspect of our ego. And please forgive my words. They're just what I got to explain the sensations of this thing, and I know they're quite limited. But with that, it began to grind away at calcified joints, injuries that I've had from a life of fitness and sports and kind of some more extreme sports, my time in the USMC, car accidents, and it's almost as though my body is walking backwards through time to some degree, and just repairing old wounds, grinding away at old wounds, freeing tension, breaking up scar tissue, and sometimes it'll do things 1,000 times. Literally, it will just keep going until the crunching stops, until it's a smooth, liquid, fluid joint. Other times it will just do it once. There'll be a pop or a click or nothing at all. Almost like a sinking in or kind of mushy sensation as it completes a contraction that, from my subjective experience, feels often like something that I've been trying to do for a long time. One of the more extreme incidents was I was doing this for, I call it yoga now, for 6 hours straight. And I didn't even realize it. That's when I say timeless. It felt like I've been doing it for about 10 minutes maybe, and then I started to get this sensation that I was getting a little bored. And I looked at the clock, and it had literally been 6 hours. And at this time, I had actually already stopped smoking marijuana. I used it for about a year. But the gateway and the channel is still open, and it's just as strong. Excuse me. And I then went and took a bath, and just an Epsom salt bath, and started to do it again in the bathtub in that sitting position with my legs out in front of me, and just for, again, felt like a couple seconds almost, and then my arms went down, grabbed my thighs, wrenched my body down at the mid-thoracics, and it popped a vertebrae that hadn't moved since I injured it about almost a decade before, and that it completely calcified and was stuck in an extended state. And after that, it was sore for like a month and a half. There was definitely inflammation, but it kept working on it, kept building it, and now I have just far more functional spine. Other parts of my spine that had become hypermobile then stabilized. I had less SI pain. Now it's almost completely gone. And there have been several other incidents where it's worked on something. It's never to the point of pain really, but there have been intense radiating cramps that would track through a muscle all the way down and then rotate through several other muscles and come out at the end of a toe, and muscular contractions that would build literally from the muscular tension of a facial expression down to my toe, the end of one of my toes. And it was completing that contraction, and through one of those, a back pain that I had had since the 6th grade just disappeared. I've never felt it again. And along with just this incredible tension that I didn't even know was there. And so with this spontaneous movement, I've been able to free myself physically from all these injuries, these old wounds, these old traumas, and with that have come resurfaced repressed memories that I've lived through physically. I was sitting in a chair and my legs were running like a madman, and I was throwing punches and all kinds of stuff, and it related to a very specific memory that I had completely forgotten. But once it resurfaced, once I felt it, and once I spent about 20 minutes sobbing afterwards, something shifted. And so it's not just physical freedom, but also it's also brought me a great deal of emotional freedom, almost liberation, in both my physical form, my posture, my alignment, everything. And with that has come shifts in my personality. It's also brought to the fore various conflicts within my body and my personality, as I hold the posture of my father in my shoulders, and the posture of my mother in my hips, and given their incredibly divergent personalities that led to a divorce when I was 5, that has led to some serious pain, physical pain, and I have no doubt emotional pain as well. And so it's gotten me in touch with who I really am. It's allowed me to be a far more embodied being, and I just want to share that with others. And for those who have come to this on their own as well, I would like to learn from you. And so, contact me. Leave comments. If this is too close as far as the video, tell me. I'll try and do my best to improve the experience. And if you have any questions about what I've said, I can try my best to clarify my language. Thank you for listening, and I hope to hear from you soon.